and welcome back to my channel. So today I am sharing with you our 2021-2022 homeschool year in review. So we spent the last year doing the Form 1B program for my daughter. That is first grade in Charlotte Mason speak, and we just completed our exam week a couple weeks ago, and I'm already prepping for next year, but I realized that I didn't sit down and film a video for you on my thoughts after our first year of formal lessons, and I didn't really share any of the things I might be changing or tweaking for next year so that we can have a smoother experience together. So today I'm going to share a few of those things. If you're interested, I'd love for you to stick around. So if you're new to my channel, you may not know that we are Charlotte Mason homeschoolers. I used the CMEC as our main program, and I love the CMEC because they provide wonderful resources for students and mothers and teachers, mother teachers as well. So we really were happy with that program. We will be using it again this year, but there were a few things that I realized I did or didn't do that I kind of want to adjust. So I want to start with things that went well this year. One of the first things that I think went well is we actually completed the year. We actually had a cross-country move right after we started our year in October, and we lived with friends for a month while we looked for a house. We lived in an Airbnb for almost all of term 2, and then we finished out the year in our new home in a different state. So we honestly, it's been a rough year for our family, but I can say with confidence that overall I feel very good about completing our first year of formal lessons. We went through every single week that I had planned out. We finished most of our books for the Form 1B program that I had planned for, and yeah, so overall it was a really, really good experience. Something else that went well is I feel like I did a pretty good job of sticking to my timetable. That was something I was a little concerned with. I really like the flexibility of having, you know, the homeschool morning where you wake up and you have a hot breakfast and the mom drinks their coffee and reads their Bible first and then begins lessons, you know, and some mornings were a little more chaotic than others, but overall we did a pretty good job of starting early in the morning, getting our morning lessons done in that 2.5-hour block, and then, you know, finishing off the day with our afternoon occupations and our out of doors time and all of that. Another thing that I feel like I did particularly well for my daughters was take them outside almost every day. We've obviously been through every season this past year, winter, summer, and every single day I have tried really hard to take them outside. That's something that I really prioritize. Another thing is that my daughter learned how to read this year, and she's only 7, she's in first grade, and I am so proud of her progress. It really was like a switch, and if you're interested in learning how I did that and what programs I used or didn't use, I share that in a video called How to Teach Reading the Charlotte Mason Way, so I'll link that below. But those were a few things that I feel like went particularly well. I feel like the last thing I really am happy about is that I feel like we really were able to provide my daughter with a really rich feast. She's learned about different composers, and we studied Da Vinci. We learned about Moses and the Exodus, and we read the Book of Mark together. We learned about some of our American history, and we studied landforms and geography, and so she has a really rich culmination of activities and things that she learned this year, and so it's been a really positive year overall. Something else that I feel like really paid off was the summer prep that I did. I pre-read all of the books last summer for this school year, this past school year, and I will say it paid off big time. If you are on the fence about pre-reading your books and planning out your lessons, not necessarily planning them out as far as a date, but familiarizing yourself with the material before you're teaching it, I would highly recommend you do that. I'm doing it this year again. I've already started the pre-reading process. I pick one subject per week this summer, and I focus on it. I plan it out as best I can, and then I try to read each chapter and then find the important content that I want to make sure we drive home when we're doing our lessons. So I try really hard to study the chapter for each week we'll be reading in each subject, and then write out my captain idea so that I am familiar with it and I can reference those notes when I'm teaching throughout the year. Some of the things that I feel like I might want to adjust or change for next year. Well, the first is I will be creating a yearly calendar, and I actually did it already. I'll show it to you. I went through and I planned out each term. So I took the whole year for next year, 2022 through 2023, and I wrote out July, August, September, October, and so on. And then I wrote out the Mondays, just the date, and it's a Monday. So the Mondays are in September are the 5th, the 12th, the 19th, and the 26th. And then I wrote out when we will begin each term. I wrote out our break because we do 3 terms per year, and each term is 10 weeks long, and then we have a break week in between each term. So weeks 1 through 5, break, weeks 6 through 10, break, and then we also have an exam week. So I wrote out all of that, and I did this for myself because since we had a cross-country move, there were times where I would skip our lessons altogether for the week, and we would take like a 2 or 3 week break. And I don't feel like that was very good for the continuity of our school year. So I can't remember where I saw it, but one of the moms I'm friends with had said, you know, I plan out our calendar year, and the year is the year, no matter what happens. If we're sick on week 8, we still do as much as we can of week 8, and we move on to week 9 the next week. And I loved that idea because it kind of prolonged our school year to have so many breaks because of our move, or, you know, if you're pregnant and you might have a baby, or if you get sick for several weeks and you miss a bunch of school, instead of just pausing and then picking it back up, which is what I did, you kind of do as much as you can for each week, and then, you know, stay with week 9, week 10, week 11, even if you're not doing as much for the week, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. But yes, so I really like the idea of having a start date and an end date no matter what happens. And there's a little room for adjustment here and there. You know, if we want to take a vacation impromptu, we can do that still. We'll just switch our break week with that week, if that makes sense. So that is one thing that I will be changing. Another thing is in our timetable, I also have a video on my timetable that I created this past year. I will be making an updated video on our timetable for this year, so stay tuned. But for our timetable this year, I am taking out a little bit of the lessons that I had in there in the afternoons. Everything in the mornings will be the same. We'll still have our 2 geography blocks, our 1 history block, our 4 Bible blocks. So we'll still have all the same stuff in our 2-hour lesson block in the morning. But the afternoons and all of that extra time, I'm planning it a little bit differently. We will also be joining, well, I am starting one, but we'll be joining a co-op this year. So we'll be meeting twice a month with some local Charlotte Mason friends, and we're very excited about that. We didn't have that this past year. I had some different nature clubs or wild and free hiking groups that I did, but this is going to be specifically focused on Charlotte Mason, and we'll do hymns and folk songs together and composer study. So I'm hoping to share about what we do with that too on my channel here, so stay tuned. And then I will be trying to plan out a nature club. I really think that, you know, time in nature is important as part of our Charlotte Mason education. We study natural history and we do nature study, but I do want to have a Friday, I think I'm going to do a Friday hike with some local moms, and it'll be students of all ages and moms that are young and seasoned will all get together and just go for a hike and then maybe journal. So that is something that I'm excited to add to our week. And then we were doing art lessons 3 times a week, including our brush drawing lesson that's in our morning timetable. So we had chalk drawing, clay work, and brush drawing in the afternoons, and I just didn't feel like there was enough time to do all 3. So I'm actually going to be taking out two of those and just focusing on one mode of art instruction per term. So we'll do only chalk drawing for term 1, or only brush drawing for term 2, or focus on only clay work for term 3. And we might add in a little bit of clay work or chalk drawing in the afternoons if my daughter chooses to do that. But as far as specific instruction, we'll be focusing on that. And then something else that I'm hoping to improve is just being better at planning out our nature study. In home education, Charlotte Mason talks a lot about being out in the world and really focusing on what we see outside, all of God's creations and all the things that He's created for us to view and look at and enjoy and bring beauty to our lives. And I did a really good job of getting them outside, but as far as our nature study, I want to be a little bit more intentional with that. So we'll be reading The Living Year. So The Living Year is our companion to our nature study, and the CMEC actually recommends that mom reads this, so I will be reading this. It has a chapter per month. So I am going to be reading the July chapter, and then I'll read the August chapter, and then in September I'll read the September chapter, and try to just be a little bit more intentional about our nature study. I want to get out and go explore some ponds because we're reading about ponds and natural history this year. I want to get a net, and we're supposed to have a wormery, so that'll be interesting. Lots of exciting stuff coming, but yes, I do want to be a little bit better about planning out my natural history and nature study time. So that is a quick little description of our year. I am already very busy in planning our next year. I'll share our timetable, my logbook, some of the books we're reading, and I'll get all of that ready for you and share it as soon as I can. Let me know if you have any other questions, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.